Welcome, everybody. You are here for the Business and Leadership Beyond the Local Tap, where craft beer stands and where it's headed. Before I introduce John, I want to introduce Lenny real quick. He's one of our sponsors of this room, and with Acrisure, and a good partner of the New York State Brewers Association.
So Paul said I have to keep this real short.
I did.
Okay, Jamie said it.
Yeah.
So if your broker is not your mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, or uncle, Acrisure can help you save money. There are rising costs with everything. Saving money is immediately impacting your bottom line. So we try to do it in 30 minutes or less. And for the brewers that we've written so far through NISBA, we've saved them money. But more importantly, we found that some of their policies, they were paying for coverages they didn't need or didn't even know about. And they were then underinsured because they needed coverage for things they needed and they didn't have. So that's it, 30 seconds. Give David or I a call. Thanks so much.
You do. And he's amazing. He really is amazing. They really do. I really mean it. Like, outside of the sponsorship, they do a great job for us. And so thank you, Len. I would like to introduce John Holl. John Holl is a journalist covering the beer industry. He is the co-founder and editor of Beer Edge, the newsletter for beer professionals. He is the host of the podcast Drink Beer, Think Beer, and co-host of Steal This Beer. If you're not listening to those, you should. John is the author of several books, including the American Craft Beer Cookbook. He is the contributing editor for Wine Enthusiast, and his work has appeared in the New York Times, Washington Post, and more. And John has lectured on the culture and history of beer and judged many beer competitions around the world, including our own several times. We missed you this year very much. And he also is enthroned by the Knights of the Brewers Fork of Belgium, descendants of the ancient Brewers Guild. So that's pretty cool. And on a personal note, I added this. I really do consider John like the preeminent beer journalist right now in this country. He's one of the smartest guys I know, and he is just an all-around great human. So thank you for coming back every year.
Thank you.
John Holl.
Hey, everybody. This is a new for me talk. The last couple years at this conference and at other conferences, I've been doing a media talk of how to get earned media and how to do press relations inside of your own brewery. And this is the first time we're doing this one, and it is drawn on conversations that I've been having for the last 6 or so years. At the beginning of COVID, where it really felt like those early days that we were in therapy sessions when we were doing podcasts and I was doing interviews and trying to figure it out. We were all just trying to figure it out together, and it's been this breakneck pace over the last 6 years of just, as Mark Twain said about life, just one goddamn thing after the next. So bear with me as I kind of work this out, and this is, it's a small room. We're all friends, I hope. So if there's something that you want to add or jump in with, feel free. We can do questions and comments and stuff at the end. But if there's something that resonates to you as I'm saying it, don't be shy. So yeah, this is about rediscovering the passion, creativity, and camaraderie that built this movement. I will get you an updated bio, Paul. We haven't done Beer Edge in a while, and I haven't been at Wine Enthusiast in a couple years. The Knighted thing is still true. But that's me and my business partner, Andy Crouch. Together, we've been covering the beer industry for more than 20 years apiece. We've both won some awards, we're lovers of lagers, and most importantly, we restarted All About Beer magazine in 2022. All About Beer was founded in 1979. We revitalized it in 2022. It used to be a print magazine. We might be bringing that back, but in the meantime, we're all online with podcasts, social media. We do events as well. Our audience is brewing professionals like you all, and then what we call the curious beer drinkers. There's not a lot of people who drink beer that also want to read about it or listen to it. So we're speaking to that niche audience that cares about your product to the 10th degree, and that's who we're speaking to. We cover industry trends, we profile pioneering brewers and new brewers as well, and we explore the culture of beer with depth and passion. As you know, journalism is much like brewing, you do it for passion, not the paycheck. And I've covered politics, I've covered hard news, I've covered crime, I've covered sports and a whole bunch of other things. Covering the beer industry is a real privilege because, as I tell people, it's not just a story of what's in the glass or what's in the can, but it is a story of entrepreneurship, and it's a story of architecture and art and agriculture, and real passion that shows up. And so it's not just one thing; it's many things to cover. And again, this is sort of drawn off of a lot of conversations that I've been having over the last couple of years. So this is a look back at our print days. You can see we had a very young Sam Calagione up there. Paul Newman was on the first edition of All About Beer back in 1979. And he was on the Budweiser racing team, like Formula One racing or IndyCar racing, I guess. So we did that. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on there, and some of our more regrettable Beer Babe centerfold days that we got away from. And then Michael Jackson, the great beer writer, called us home for many years. Is this mic okay like this? Okay, cool. So what is the state of craft beer today as we know it? Industry is not in crisis, as what a lot of the headlines from some of the larger publications might talk about, but we certainly are in transition. We're seeing smarter brewers make smarter moves these days. Consumers are more educated and selective. The $20 4-pack era is ending, which is probably a good thing. Maybe not for your bottom line, but I think ultimately. And now the makers spanned cider, seltzer, spirits, kombucha, and coffee. So if you went to the Great American Beer Festival this year, it used to be called the Brewers Lounge, and this year it was called the Makers Lounge. And they had spirits, and they had hard tea, and they had all kinds of other things there as well. And it was a very conscious shift by the national organization to get away from beer and recognizing what's happening within your four walls and other breweries these days as well. So not everything needs to last forever, and so the industry is in crisis, but not in transition, but not everything needs to last forever, but you should be living on your own terms right now. You should be doing the brewery the way that you want to be, that you envisioned it in the beginning, and not necessarily worrying about what the larger industry is doing or what people down the street is doing. I'm seeing smarter brewers making smarter moves by expanding their hours to give people a chance to hang out during their workday, right? The big thing about COVID is it shifted how we drink. It shifted when we go out to drink. Happy hours are not really as popular as they used to be. We don't see bars staying open until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning anymore because they're going home. Even before COVID, people were getting comfortable in their homes. We have Netflix, we have comfortable couches, we have weed, we have DoorDash, we have all of these things that make it very, very easy to stay at home and very, very hard to leave your house. So what I'm seeing is breweries that would open their tap rooms at 4 p.m. hoping to get the people after work. There's smart folks that are starting to open at noon. And if it's just a bartender or just somebody who's there to sort of, help manage as people come through, if it's not a ton of people, you still have people in your tap room on their laptops. Maybe they're having a beer, maybe they're not. We're seeing other breweries. Lamplighter in Cambridge, Massachusetts is a great example of this, or Somerville, Massachusetts is a great example of this. They added a coffee element to it. So they open up at 6 o'clock every morning, and they have a coffee team that gets there. People come in, they get their morning coffee, they get their bagel. People sit and hang out like it's a coffee shop around noon. Beer service begins. Some people stay for beer, but they are packed from morning to night by making a few adjustments and meeting people where they want to be. Not having blaring music during the day so people can actually do, some of their Zoom calls or, get work done. Making it in an environment where it's a smart move to get people coming in on hours that they ordinarily wouldn't have in the past. One of the other smart brewers making smart moves right now that I've been seeing is the online auctions. How many people get like 10 emails a day about stainless and other online auctions and everything that you can buy from breweries that have gone out of business? Very few people are looking to add capacity right now. New tanks isn't all that great. Not what people are looking for, and a lot of that stuff is just sitting, waiting for the next generation of brewers who can get it on the cheap 5 years from now. But what I'm seeing smart brewers do is look at their existing equipment and then buying on the cheap the same make and model and bringing it in and storing it and using it for parts. As these things start to break down, they can do it in-house. They're saving money. They don't have to, invest in new equipment a lot sooner or used equipment a lot sooner. They're using their money wisely. It's unfortunate that some of these breweries have closed, but smart brewers are making those moves and buying backup equipment because they're recognizing this stuff is going to break at some point, and we can get it on the cheap, and it saves us money for the longer run and keeps us from being down a lot longer than we would have liked. Where are we with beer these days? Consumers are more educated and selective. It's not just about hops or ABV, but it's also about the flavors and what they want. Look to the industries, other industries, and see what's popping and how you can speak to that. We've seen the trends in IPAs years ago when mango became popular and everybody started looking to mango, and that was led in by the spirits industry that started doing fruit flavored mocktails and not mocktails but fruit flavored cocktails and things like that. Look to what hard seltzer is hitting berry wise or watermelon or whatever. Look to the other industries and see what their sales data is showing, and find a way, if you want, to incorporate that into your own business in a meaningful way. There's nothing wrong with trying to appeal to people as long as you're doing it in an authentic way. But just being in a silo or just looking around to what other brewers are doing, if it's, well, everybody's doing Citra Mosaic, I have to do Citra Mosaic. Look to other industries and see what's popping there and see if you can find a way to incorporate it into your own business. On the consumer front, there's been a lot of talk about Gen Z, how their drinking habits are ruining the industry. I've heard how they are changing things up a little bit. It goes beyond them these days. Many people are delaying their drinking these days. They are drinking less. They're moderating more. They're swapping alcohol for other beverages on weeknights. They're swapping it for cannabis on weeknights as well. And generationally, what we're seeing with Gen Z is, my Gen X and boomers and all of that, we started drinking hard early in life. And the gap for Gen Z now, when they're polled on the question of how much do you drink, the gap between never and occasionally hard, which means, like last night at City Beer Hall and all of that, that is widening for them. The gap between never drinking and going hard is widening for them, and that speaks volumes. Boomers are drinking less as well. They're spending less money on alcohol as well. The $20 4-pack era is ending. They're not buying it every week. They might be buying it every 2 weeks because they're spending, and you'll hear this from Chris Shepard, I hope tomorrow. Is Chris in the room? No. You'll hear this from him tomorrow, but people are spending money still on vices. They're just spending their money on other vices that are not just beer. Customers have cut back because prices have jumped. Nights out have gotten expensive. Others still spend, but only when the product feels premium, convenient, or aligned with wellness and identity. And that's where Gen Z drinking habits in 2026 start changing this history. It's not by quitting alcohol, but it's refusing to drink the way older generations did. And we'll get into a little bit more on that identity and wellness to a point, but that identity is going to be really important. The boundaries are gone. How you adapt defines this next chapter of beer. So just New York briefly in context, again, not an industry in crisis, but transition. It is a thriving competitive marketplace and landscape here in New York. It's fun to see it, especially from my perch in Jersey, where, we're not doing great. The big metro markets certainly help. There's strong local identity for each of those. You can't compare what's happening in Long Island to what's happening in Manhattan. You can't compare that with what's happening in Rochester and Buffalo, or even Rochester to Buffalo. Capital Region, Hudson Valley. I mean, it's vibrant with a local sense and scene, no matter where you go in the state. So no matter where you are, lean into that. Breweries as community hubs and destinations, like we see it over and over and over again. Breweries are welcoming. They're trying to, especially those of you that are in small towns, trying to be that community meeting hub. Lean into that as much as you can. There are some closings. There's some tough closings that have happened, and there's more on the way. It's okay to close. And that's something that wasn't talked about enough early on, and I'll get into this a little bit more, but it's okay to close, and some breweries should actually close as we're in this stage right now. And it's a hard thing to say, it's a hard thing to be thinking about, but everybody should have it on top of mind of having an exit plan at some point. We'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. So where I see we are in beer right now is the silo effect. When you look back to 2015, 16, 17, those rocket ship to Mars days of craft beer, where, like, I think my first byline in beer in 2003 mentioned something like the 1,300 breweries in the United States. And now it's 9,700, and then there's it's like the 5,000 breweries, the 7,000 breweries, the almost 10,000 breweries. Now we're back down to about 9. But that brought a lot of isolation into the industry. And then COVID really brought that to a head. Fewer shared spaces, there were fewer conferences, there were fewer collaborations that were happening during that time. And camaraderie, I think, suffered, and innovation certainly suffered. Because everybody was sort of in their own thing, only peeking their heads out and saying, okay, what's happening right now? And hazy IPA fueled the growth, right? And there are brilliant brewers that made really wonderful and still make really wonderful hazy IPA. I'm looking at you, Jeff O'Neill, among other IPAs that you've made. And there's a lot of people who are like, well, I mean, he throws Citra and Mosaic in. All I have to do is throw Citra and Mosaic in, and like that's it. And they're not taking the time to experiment. They weren't taking the time to innovate. It was just industry like Citra Mosaic. We're going to make Citra Mosaic, and there was just innovation just fell off a cliff. One of the things that I've been thinking about in this is, for most of us in this room, I imagine, when we first started drinking, we all had a gateway beer. We all had a gateway style. For a lot of folks, it was Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. For me, it was Red Hook ESB. I've heard Fuller's talk about Magic Hat Number 9, Sam Adams Cherry Wheat. There's all these beers that sort of popped up early on. And 9 and Cherry Wheat are great examples of speaking to those 20-year-olds of, like, hey, this is a fruit flavor that you're familiar with through candy or through cereal or through whatever. Now it's in a fun adult way. Hazy IPA helped with that because you get those flavors of mango and peach and pineapple and guava and all these things that are hop derived. But when we had those early gateway beers, right, and I'm challenging you now to sort of think about when you get a 21-year-old in for the first time, what's the beer that you want to give them? What do you want your gateway beer for them to be? Because the problem in those era of 15, 16, 17, and then through COVID, was so many people were starting on hazy IPA. And how do you get those hazy IPA drinkers to drink an ESB, to drink a Cherry Wheat, to drink a Hefeweizen, to drink something that is not just turbid hop juice? And again, there's really well-made ones, and then there's just a lot of not so well-made ones. But how do you get them to expand their horizon past just that one style of beer? And it's not easy, but it's by having diversification on your tap lists. It's by making sure that you have beers that are not just 8 IPAs that are all variations on each other. I mean, the joke of, well, this time we put the Citra in before the Mosaic, but on this one, the Mosaic went in before the Citra, and like back in those days, the neckbeards were like, oh yeah, you can really taste the difference. But how do you, are you offering beers that are not just one style? Are you giving people a chance to experiment at your bar? Are you leading them through? Because the silo effect, if everybody else is making IPA, it's the best selling category in craft. If I don't make it, I'm going to go out of business. Yeah, but like if you keep doing it, you're eventually going to get stuck because, like people will move on to the next thing, or they're going to move on to the next brewery down the way. Having diversification, getting out of that silo, is incredibly important, and the guilds matter. I've said this every year that I've been fortunate enough and privileged enough to come up here. Paul and his team, what they do for you all is incredible. and that you all are here is incredible. There are few other states that also do it really well, and there's a lot of states that struggle. That you guys have so many breweries and an association and meetings like this that get you all together is so critically important, and it reconnects these silos. It reconnects you all. It gets you all talking again, and that's important. That's what the industry needs going forward. So thank you again for what you do, Paul. Craftsmanship and quality. Every brewery is a 4.8 on Google, right? I do not trust Google rankings at all. I'm tired of them, but every brewery is a 4.8 on Google. And it just tells you that, like, oh, everybody's kind of just the same, right? If you're a 4.6 or a 4.3, like, you must be doing something really terrible. But 4.8 on Google, like, I don't trust that as a marker. And I know some people like to see that number up high. They're trying to go for a 5.0. It's not a fair representation of the world. Stop looking at it that way. When did you last audit your own quality? I travel a lot. I'm lucky to go into a lot of breweries. Paul said nice things about me and what I do. Usually when I go into a brewery the first time, I go in unannounced. I'm not trying to do a secret shopper thing. My ego can't take the fact if I walk in and I'm like, hey, I'm John Holl from All About Beer, and they're like, I don't know who you are or what that is. That just kills me. So I just would rather sit at the bar and just like drink myself. But I don't do flights. I don't do tasters. When I stop into a place the first time, I will say, what's your flagship? What are you guys proud of? What's seasonal? I'll ask the bartender, or if it's the owner or whoever's behind the bar, it's my first time here. What should I be drinking to get a fair representation of your place? And 40% of the time, it's not a good pint. And they're serving it, and this is what they have said we are proud of. This is, our representation, to you. And I think that when you're in that silo effect and when you're not leaving your own brewery and when you've been making the same recipe forever and the sales numbers are solid, and Jim comes in every Thursday and has his 3 pints and likes it, why change anything? You get stuck and the quality begins to suffer. The craftsmanship begins to suffer. It just becomes a widget. One of the better examples that I have is Russian River, right? Everybody knows Russian River. And Vinny Chilurzo has talked about, no recipe is ever finished for him. That he is continuously tweaking Blind Pig, he's continuously tweaking Pliny, he's continuously tweaking STS and all of his other beers. He's always finding ways to improve them, to keep them fresh, to keep them where he's excited about it. And so Siegel Ranches, I don't know if John Siegel's around this time. I know he spent some time in New York. But Siegel Ranches has this new hop that came out called Tangier that has this tangerine-like flavor to it, hop-derived tangerine flavor to it. And Vinny did a rubbing of it 2 years ago and put it in some test batches and loved it. And actually said to me, this is, the hop that I've been looking for my beers for a long time, to bring character and quality to, what I've always envisioned Pliny could be or Blind Pig could be. So he bought up most of the lots this year. And he is incorporating it brewery-wide throughout all of his beers. That might change in a couple of years if something else comes along. But again, he's refining his flagships, with a single hop that he found because he's walking the hop fields, and that his brewer mind, it spoke to him in a way, right? He can continue to make Blind Pig and Pliny exactly how it has been, and we're all going to drink it because it's all a fucking great beer, but that he is committed and his team is committed to that quality and to that growth, I think is so critically important and is really something that we should all be thinking about. Do you invite outside tasters in? Do you listen to the critics? Untapped in those early days, I know there's a lot of hate for Untapped, and a lot of it was, deserved, some not. But it was a useful tool and probably still is. If you have a beer out there where one account, you're continuously getting low scores. It probably means their draft lines aren't clean if it's an outside account. If things start to pop up over time where, hey, my amber ale used to be 4 bottle caps and now it's 2 bottle caps. Maybe something is happening. Maybe I should look to that. It's not what's the old Simpsons meme? It's like no, I can't be wrong. It must be the children that are wrong. Pay attention to the feedback that you're getting. Look at if people are leaving pints behind on your bar. Humans, if we don't like something, we don't eat it, we don't drink it, we leave it behind. Pay attention to if people are leaving things at your bar half finished or almost full. That's a telltale sign that you need to start to tweak your recipes. Education and curiosity are the marks of great brewers. Again, I'm privileged to talk to folks all the time, and it's, the conversations that I have with brewers like Vinny Trulurzo or Jeff O'Neill, where this curiosity and the education and the reading that they put into these things inspires me as a drinker, inspires me as a journalist, and those are fun stories to write. Be curious, you don't just have to, make beer, you can make beer better. And I've said this every year, and I will say it again, but if you are knowingly putting out a flawed beer with off flavors, shame on you. And you should get out of this industry immediately or get better. But the amount of times that I go into places that are still serving at 40%, that's still serving diacetyl pints or oxidation or, just clearly infected, it's an insult to everybody else in this room who's trying to do it right and just get better or get out. You will be forgotten to history, thankfully, and the industry is going to move on from you really, really quick these days. I'm usually a little bit more angry about it, but it's a new, innovation and change. The last decade, right? We saw the IBU wars, we saw the rise of pastry stouts, we saw the rise of every wackadoodle ingredient that you could throw into beer, we threw into beer. We saw Brewdog using animal carcasses as bottles. We saw John Mayer's beer out of Rogue in Oregon. All of these things, and there was a lot of experimentation that was happening. People were throwing things to the wall, seeing what stuck, and it fueled a lot of excitement. There's countless stories written. People were lining up to try the Sour Patch Kid beers or the dill pickle beers, and some of those have actually stuck. But it also kind of fueled burnout as well, right? Because you were conditioning customers to come in and saying, what's new, what's new, what's new, what's new, what's next, what's next. And it's yeah, but you didn't even finish what we had last week. Let's, go from there. It's okay to slow down a little bit and to still experiment, still try new things. But you don't have to do it at the breakneck pace that you used to, and also give some of these things some time to breathe. The best example I have of that is Brut IPA, which became a punchline so friggin' fast. And Kim Sturdivant, who put it together out in California, had a pretty cool idea for what that beer could be. And there was a couple of articles that were written in some of the trade publications, and folks were like, yeah, well, I'm just going to try my own take on Brut IPA. I'm just going to, he does it this way, I'm going to do it totally different. We're going to call it a Brut IPA. And we had this sort of mishmash of nobody knew what it was or what it was supposed to be or how it was supposed to drink, and the guidelines weren't there. And it just kind of became this punchline and disappeared because we were too busy to innovate off of something that didn't even have a chance to get out of infancy and to see what it could have grown into. And so taking a beat, taking some time when the next new thing comes out to really sort of look at, who's doing it well, who's doing it right, I think will pay off for that style. Cold IPA, Kevin Davey learned from Kim on how to put it out there, and he had articles and podcasts and web pages of really just sort of hammering home, this is my vision for it. Start here, go from there, or make up your own thing and go from there. But if you want to call something a cold IPA, I believe it should be this, and here's why. And I think that that's one of the reasons it's had a little bit more success in the last couple of years. Hazy IPA in the beginning was once fresh. It's now formulaic. I don't know how many times I can make that Citra Mosaic joke. I'm going to try a few more times. But there is very little. The beers are not much different from each other from place to place to place, except for the ones that are still messing around with it, except for the ones that are still trying hard and understanding the ingredients and really working to bring bright, fresh, vibrant flavors. One of the podcasts I host is called Steal This Beer. It's with Augie Carton. He's a pain in the ass. And we had this brewer on a couple years ago. And he was a Jersey Shore brewer who was making some hazies. And he, Augie, as a brewer, was trying to talk to him about, like hopping rates and, how to, like if he had messed around with this new experimentational hop, that he had just heard about at a conference or something like that. And the brewer was like, no, like nobody cares. Like you just, you get your 3 pounds per barrel, and this is like back in those days. You get your, 3 pounds per barrel, you throw it in, you let it sit for 2 weeks, and then it's done. And he was just so dismissive of it, and I was so insulted by that. But that attitude, I think, permeated so many other breweries as well, So many brewers that I talk to don't love hazy IPA. They don't like making it. There's no joy in making it. They understand that it is, something that is necessary for the bottom line, but there's no passion behind it because it's not their brewer passion. Still make it, but try to make it yours. Try to make it better. Try to find a way to really dig in and say, okay, like I want to do this well. In those early days of hazy IPA, and everybody's trying to figure out like why Treehouse and why Trillium and why Alchemist and a bunch of other brewers were doing it so well. It was part of the process. The first time, Jeff again, like the first time that I went to Trillium in those early days when they had just built their new brewery, JC did not want to show off, like his hop storage. He didn't want to show off his shiny new fermenters. He wanted to show me his centrifuge. And he's like, we are centrifuging the shit out of these beers. We're separating it out. We don't want it to be thick. We want it to be vibrant. And that's the reason that they had, again, all of the neckbeards showing up with their pallet jacks, loading up their Priuses and, going back to mom's basement. Like, it was just one of those things. Because the process was there, and those beers stood above what was happening down the street. Again, I know centrifuges are expensive, but again, if you want to do it and resonate in a way where people want to keep coming back over and over and over again, invest in the process, invest in the technology, invest in the hop blends that speak to you in a good way. And again, be sort of uniquely your own. Define the trends. Don't chase them. As we get into this next era, following what everybody else is doing is not going to serve you well. It's just not. Like follow the good practices. But like, amber ales are exciting again. Cool. Like go make a really good amber ale, but do it because you want to be doing it. Don't do it because like I told you to. Although seriously, go make more amber ales because we do need more amber ales. Don't chase the trends. Define them. Beyond beer is a dangerous concept. Again, at GABF this year, there was the Maker's Lounge instead of the Brewer's Lounge. But going beyond beer is a dangerous concept. We have hard seltzers, we have the RTDs, the kombuchas, the THC drinks, the non-alcoholics are only great if they are authentic. Again, chasing trends. We've seen Boston Beer kill it in the twisted tea segment. A couple years ago, a bunch of the other larger companies tried to chase the hard tea trend by rushing into the national marketplace with that. We saw it with hard seltzer early on as well. White Claw blew up, and it's like, well, should I be making seltzer or should I not? And there's a lot of folks early on saying, no, we're brewers, don't make seltzer. But yeah, there's a lot of people who like to drink it. Why don't you make seltzer? Why don't you make it authentically yours? Like, what is, I learned about grape pie last night for the first time. That's apparently a thing that Sean Place was telling me about. Make a grape pie flavored hard seltzer if you live in that part of the world. Ethan Cox is saying don't do that. I don't know. Is it not good? Is it not a tasty pie, or is it?
This is a whole side discussion, John.
Okay.
You would think there's nothing wrong with grape and pie,
Okay.
and then you have one.
Okay.
You just haven't had the right grape pie.
Okay. You have to have the, but again, you know, wherever you are in the state, if there are local flavors that resonate, you know, like if you're on Long Island, you should have hard seltzers that speak to, you know, going to the beach. You know, if you're in, you know, Manhattan, although I guess there's no breweries in Manhattan, but if you're in the city, you know, look to what the flavors are that people are enjoying at the corner bars these days, at the trendy places. If you're in upstate, I don't know what the produce is upstate. Wine? Wine grapes? Okay. So yeah, so make wine seltzer or something. But find something if you're going to do it and make it regional, make it small, make it so that you have something other than beer that is authentic to you, that gets people staying a lot longer. We're seeing, you know, celiac more, people are drinking a little bit less. You know, it's hard to get large groups of people out to just drink hazy IPA. These days, have diversification of beverages, but again, make it authentically yours. Same thing with a kombucha if you're going to do it. If you're going to open up a coffee roaster, you know, Finback's doing some cool stuff with that these days. Other breweries are as well. Make the roasts what you want them to be. They're great, again, only if they are authentic. Innovate from your strengths. Your strength is where you are. Your strength is your customers and what they want. You know, innovate from that, not just like, oh my God, we need to do what everybody else is doing these days. Look at your sales data. Look who's coming through your door. Ask your customers, hey, if we were going to add something, what would you like to be drinking? Like, you know, if you could have something other than beer at our bar right now that we could make in-house, you know, what would you like that to be? Just ask them. You know, it might just be, no, I like beer. But, you know, some people might say, like, you know, I'd love to see something with, you know, grape pie in it. I don't know. Collaborations and cross promotions. I'm seeing a lot of this these days, and I think it's really smart. Partner with restaurants and local businesses. Do white labels for local restaurants if you can. You know, be their house beer. Don't let Blue Point be their house beer. Don't let, you know, one of the AB brands or something. Sorry, is Blue Point in the house? I apologize.
No, I was sharing that.
Oh, okay. I was like, yeah. Okay, yeah. I don't need the, you know, Canadian weed mongers like getting mad at me these days for that. But like, you know, find the local restaurant that has a liquor license and say like, hey, can I make beer for you? Can I sell, you know, like, can this be, you know, Bob's Restaurant's beer that we make, and it's right down the street. And then when people ask where it comes from, it's like, hey, we're right down the street, and come see us. You know, do that. Work with local coffee roasters if you're making coffee beers. You know, find somebody local. You know, don't just be buying off of bulk and Amazon. As much as you can work with other small businesses for your beer and your products, the wider a net it's going to be. One of the things that I learned in, you know, or I was rediscovering is, for years and years and years, I was always writing about craft beer and the 13% of the marketplace. You know, it's 13% of beer drinkers are craft beer drinkers, and they've stopped really giving out those numbers because I think it's dropped a little bit. And there's a little bit of time where it's like, we're going to have 20% market share by 2020. Anybody remember that? Yeah, that did not work out. And as more breweries opened up, you were all competing with yourselves, right? You weren't really competing against the big guys. That 13% didn't get bigger, but more breweries came in, and your piece of that little pie got, you know, smaller by the moment. Reaching out to other industries, finding folks and introducing, you know, yourself to them through non-beer ways, through collaborations, is incredibly important. And I'm seeing brewers do it more and more with great success. Can you do farmers markets in New York?
Yes.
Yeah. If you're not doing your local farmers market, start. The brewers that I've been talking to in Massachusetts who have been doing it are killing it these days. You know, they're going twice a month to their local farmers market. They have great POS around where it's like, come visit us in our tap room. You know, it's easy to staff, you know, for the day. It gets, you know, you in front of people that ordinarily wouldn't come to where you are. Meet them where they want to be. Promote with the farmers market, like work with the other farms as well. Like when strawberries are going to be in season, brew a strawberry pale ale or brew a strawberry blonde ale or something like that. And then like, hey, made with strawberries from this farm right over here, like remember those delicious strawberries you had 3 weeks ago that are no longer in season? Yeah, you can still enjoy them, and now they're in this beer and they came from, like, do that kind of thing, and it'll widen your net. Identity and purpose. Every now and again, do check-ins with yourself. I think, again, one thing after the next. It was COVID, and then it was Russia invading Ukraine and grain prices going up, and then it was, turmoil around the world and turmoil at home, and one thing after another after another after another, and now it's Iran, and there's all these things that are hurting your business financially that are well outside of your realm of control. And we were collectively holding our breath for so long that it was only in the last, I think, year or so that we were forced to exhale and forced to sort of reckon with where we are. And when you have those moments, and even scheduling something on your calendar for every 6 months of like, I'm going to take 3 hours and just sit and think about, why did I start this business? Do I still enjoy this business? Am I doing this business the way that I want to be? What can I be doing better? Have a mission beyond filling tanks. Rob, shared, their brewing philosophy during his talk this morning. Focus on local. Success is within 50 miles. Like, make sure that you have 50 miles if you are distributing out. Make sure you have that 50 miles around your brewery locked up before you go beyond there. Control your footprint, control your destiny, be local again. Again, support the fabric of your local community. Be that hub. Be that place where people want to have their meetings. Be that place where people want to come after pickleball. Be that place where people want to come, after a funeral. Be that place where they want to celebrate birthdays and good times. Like, give them reasons to do it. It's okay. And the identity, I think, is important as well, right? There's my good friend M. Souter, who did last year's bags, which were being passed around this year, is lovely. And she had this, did I mess that up? Was that? Oh, the pint, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, she did the Pint Days glasses last year. She had one of her Pints and Panels cartoons that was the craft beer, or the craft brewery starter kit. And it was the uncomfortable metal stool, it was the Edison bulb, it was fake plants in the window, and it was like 9 IPAs on tap kind of thing. And for a while, in that 15, 16, 17 range going into COVID, walking into a brewery was like, wow, you all went to the same brewery, IKEA. Like, everything looked the same, and it was boring. And there was very little personality around it. And again, I'm using Jeff as an example because he's sitting here, and but you put real thought into your architecture. You put real thought into the vibe of your tap room when you opened up. And I remember going in there and just being impressed with, it felt like what you wanted industrial arts to be, and not something out of a box. There was craftsmanship that went into the vibe of the place, and it matches the craftsmanship that goes into the beers. Be that. Do that. Be authentically yourself. There's a brewery that existed, it closed last year, but it was known as the Heavy Metal Breweries, a true brewery out in Denver, and then they had an outpost, so I've seen people nod, and then opened up in Asheville as well. But it was the Heavy Metal Brewery, and that was their shtick, but it was not like a shtick because it was like actually authentic. It's the music that they liked. It's the vibe that they wanted to do. They wanted to have a hardcore bar where they made really good, wild fermented ales and lagers, and it got a lot of press because it went against the grain. It was not the norm. And when you walked in, I could walk in and I'd be treated like a perfectly normal patron, and nobody was like, I don't understand the music. I don't appreciate it in the way that the regulars did. But I always felt welcome in there. But the people who were the regulars, who loved the music, who loved the vibe, that was their place. Like, they loved it, and they kept it going for a really, really long time. You can center around, your brewery around your beliefs, around your personal passions, around what you want it to be. It does not have to be cookie cutter anymore. Identity and purpose. Last year, Paul asked me in this room, should you get political? The answer is yes, if you want to be. If you feel strong about politics, if you feel strong about the state of the world, if you feel strong about causes that are happening, injustices that are happening, speak out about it. It used to be, 3 things you don't talk about at the bar: sex, politics, and religion. All of those have been thrown out the window. If you believe in something in your personal life, you can put your business behind it. It might suffer, might not. You might get new people coming in as well. But be your authentic self and let your business be a reflection of that as well. I'm not saying you have to be like the guy in Wisconsin. Is it Wisconsin or what's that?
Is it Minocqua?
Yeah, Minocqua.
Yes, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Have you heard about Minocqua Brewing in Wisconsin? So this guy is very, very political. He's about as far left as you can go. And he has these very politically charged posts that go up there. And it gets him a lot of business. It gets him a lot of hate. He went viral a couple of weeks ago where he just put up a social media post that says, all it said was, when he dies, everybody drinks for free at our bar. And he was beloved, and he was hated, and he got a lot of attention, but he was authentically himself in that. I'm not saying do that, and he also didn't say who he is, by the way. He just did that. So talk about politics if you want, or let your political beliefs be known. It can be as simple as a sign in the window, where people can know that they're safe or know that their, beliefs align with yours or not. They might walk on by, or they might, spit on your window or something as they do. That's on them. But if you want to talk politics, if you want to take a stand because of what you're seeing in the world these days, you can. And you should if you feel passionate about it. And if you just want to be neutral, you can also just be neutral about it. But again, looking at the mission, we're 10 years in for a lot of breweries, that 15, 16, 17. 10 years is a great time to reevaluate where you are. Are you happy? Do you still like doing this? Do you want to keep doing this? Sell does not have to be a dirty word. A lot of breweries are trying to do it now. They're trying to look out. A lot of folks who started in that 15, 16, 17 range did this as a second career. If you've made it 10 years, that's a hell of an accomplishment. You should be thinking about retirement. You should be thinking about an eventual closing. You should be thinking about passing it on at some point. You need to have an exit plan when you first open. And if you don't have one and you've been open for a couple of years, you need to start thinking about it. If you don't, you're going to be flat-footed. You need to lay the groundwork far in advance. Know how to read your books. You should talk to Audra about this. Understand what your financial situation is. Have people who know how to read books explain it to you. There have been a ton of the closings that have happened have just been signs posted on a wall saying hey, this was our last day. Sorry, because the owners didn't see it coming. They either weren't paying attention or they were trying to hide it from other employees or whatnot. But it's a bad look. There's a brewery in New Jersey called Ashton, which Steve Ashton was a home brewer. He went pro. He got a turnkey brewery. He opened up, I think, the year after COVID started, 21. He lasted 4 years. He had a good run. And he was looking at his books, and he was like, I have 8 months worth of runway the way that I'm going here. There's construction in his neighborhood that was closing the street intermittently. He was in a back warehouse that was hard to find. There wasn't great signage from the street. It wasn't a great location, but he gave it his all. And he realized that he had 8 months left, and he made a post saying listen, we're going to close down in 8 months. I hope you'll come as much as you can in between now and then. Thanks for everything. We went on the last weekend. I was there with my wife and daughter, and I was talking to him, and I said, you made this announcement a long time ago. Why? He goes, I didn't want to leave with any debts. 8 months was what I had to keep going. It's to pay the debts that I had in a meaningful way, and then I could walk away from the business clean. Like, there's not going to be any lawyers, there's not going to be any angry phone calls. I was up front with my vendors, I was up front with everybody, and he seemed really at peace with that. Every brewer should be prepared for that. Every brewer should be thinking about, not just like, oh, we have to close in 8 months, but like, what happens when the eventual day comes, if we're going to sell? What happens if your owner dies? What happens, like for chain of command and succession and all of that? Or do you want to sell? Or do you just want to close it up as well? There's no shame in just closing it up. For a long time, it was, hey, this is going to be a generational business. You're going to pass this on to your kids. It's going to go on and on and on and on and on. When you look at the larger breweries in the country from the craft era, Bell's and New Belgium and Sam Adams and Dogfish and all that, like, it's not going to the kids. The kids don't want it. It's not the kids' dream to follow what their parents did. Excuse me. By the way, way to go, Kuzme, huh?
Yeah.
Be prepared for all of that, and close on your own terms if you can. Tommy Arthur of the Lost Abbey once told me that he would rather just close it down one day when he's ready than sell it to somebody and live long enough to see somebody fuck up his dream or do something in his brewery name that he just hates. And so think about it that way as well. If you've put 10 years in, if you've put 20 years in, if you put 2 years in, and it's just not working out, it's okay, but leave it all on the field. Don't be everything to everybody. Be unmistakably you. Storytelling and experience. When people are in your bar, in your tap room, use the theater of beer. Remind them why they want to be drinking. Nitro pours, garnishes, watermelon wedges and blueberries in your beer. Like, all of that stuff on a hot day is really great. Add color to the beer. We were drinking the green beer at City Beer Hall last night. It used to be like, craft doesn't do that. Fuck, it's fun. It's cool. It's, have fun with this, have vibrant colors, brew a hibiscus beer that's bright pink. People are going to ask what it is, and then they're going to be curious. We drink with our eyes first. Use your social media to teach foam, to teach about proper glassware and presentation. Make sure all of your bartenders, know how to do that well. Not everybody needs a lucre. It's nice to have it. It's fun. The explanation that it takes of, why you're serving somebody a glass of wet foam is really confusing the first 5 times that you have to tell them. And then if they eventually get it, great. And if not, fine too. But again, it's that presentation. We're drinking with our eyes. There's a story that I was told that I was then later told was fake, but I'm going to tell it anyway, is that Widmer Brothers, when they first started in the 80s, had their Hefeweizen, and one of their sales reps would go to bars around Portland and order a round of 6 and have the server walk around with them on a tray around the crowded bar, with the lemon wedge in it and the big Weizen glass. And within 5 minutes of that person doing 2 rounds, the bar sales would go up by 20% because it's like, oh, what is that? Guinness's best advertisement is a Guinness being poured at the bar. Give people an opportunity to see your beer and get excited about your beer and what you're serving. Give guests something to photograph, and post and share. Make sure they know your social media handles when they're there. Make sure it's on your menus. Make sure it's behind the bar. Have beautiful looking breweries like Jeff, where they can position a glass in a cool place, and you get that honeycomb in the background. It's like, oh yeah, that's industrial arts. That's really cool. Give people that type of experience. Don't let your space get tired either. It's a reflection on you. If you need a new paint job, do a new paint job. If something's broken, fix it. Cambridge Brewing Company was around for 35 years. They closed last year. Phil Ballantyne was just ready to give it up. They weren't going to sell it on to somebody else. I was in there 2 weeks before they closed. It was busy as hell. And Phil, who had been there for all 35 years, I saw him watering the plants when I walked in, out on the patio. And I saw him, I'm sitting at the bar, I see him walk into the back, and he comes out with a ladder. And he goes to the back of the tap room, and he puts the ladder up, and he fixes an exit sign that was blinking. And I saw him later on. I was like, why? He's like, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And it needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be perfect. recognize those details. Don't let your place get tired. Refresh now and again. It makes people sit up a little bit straighter if they feel like you've put in the time and energy for a fresh coat of paint. So what's the path forward? Return to bitterness, balance, and craftsmanship. 100%. West Coast is happening. Again, thankfully, bring hops back. Don't let the hazy IPA creep where everything is sweet go into other styles as well. There's a popular national brewery that released a Pilsner recently as part of a national campaign. It's Sierra Nevada. Yeah, it's like, you all know who I'm talking about. And the hazy IPA creep has gone into that Pilsner. It has no hop snap on the finish. I cannot drink it. Like, I can drink 6 of them, and I'm just looking to connect with like a little bit of like that Bitburger Grolsch, like a little bit of that hop snap on the back. But because of the, the heavy handedness of hazy IPA and that everything should be sweet, it's creeping into other styles. Bring back a little bit of bitterness, bring back a little bit of balance. Embrace education, embrace collaboration, embrace authenticity. What we're seeing in this with the path forward and speaking to that younger generation and the one that's going to come up behind it, money is tight for a lot of them. So they're not just going to pay bar prices to go stand in a loud room. They're choosing a house hang, they're choosing a concert or a treat yourself bottle or a 4-pack or something that feels intentional. That's going to force you to be thinking about how you can fit an at-home ritual. Having your beer to go and using your social media to talk about occasions. And this is the beer for your night in. This is the beer for your Netflix and chill. This is our drink for your Netflix and chill, like whatever it is. They're not just buying liquid. You're buying the signal from them. The packaging needs to look good on camera. We're living in an Instagram world these days. You need to have something that stands out that is uniquely you. Brands that feel ethically consistent is important as well to the younger generation, and flavors that read as curated can matter as much as the base beer itself. And again, play into that local when you go from there. If a brand feels out of touch or that it's trying too hard, Gen Z says that they notice and that they're moving on to something else that fits with them. So just think about that as the path forward. Have your beer packaged and ready to go by your front door so that people can come in and grab it to go. Encourage people, like, hey, do you want, have your servers trained to say, hey, do you want something going, before you go, you want a 4-pack to go, like go grab it from the cooler. Encourage them to bring it home. Encourage them to bring it into their space. It's the old days of stealing the pint glass, when we all had the pint glass and then we're all using, a Sierra Nevada pint glass for our orange juice in the morning. And it's like, oh, Sierra Nevada. Like, yeah, I need a Sierra Nevada. Do that again. Get back into to people's homes. Moments at a time, but every beer has a story. Help us tell it. You can go to allaboutbeer.com. This is us right here. That's all of my contact information. That's my Instagram. That's Andy's as well, but follow along with us. Reach out. I want to hear what you all are doing. I answer just about every email that I get as long as I get it. I want to hear how you all are being authentic. I want to hear what you see as your path forward. It's scary out there. It's frustrating out there. I hear it in all of the conversations that I'm having with folks, but I'm also hearing a lot of optimism these days. I'm hearing that people are jazzed about the next 5 years, that they know it's going to be hard, but that they're committed to doing it and committed to doing it themselves. And not trying to be everything to everybody, but really just trying to be you gives me an opportunity when I show up at your place for the first time to really get a true sense of who you are and why you're in this industry and why you love being in this industry and why you got into it in the first place. So thank you so much. I hope this made a little bit of sense and hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, cheers. No, go. Oh, hey.
Wait, sorry.
What's up, Long Island?
Is there any, back to Gen Z real quick, is there any data that suggests Gen Z growing up in breweries and just being thrown an iPad in front of them the whole time? Is there any data that suggests that maybe that's also why they're drinking later or not going to breweries as often, in the sense that they were essentially raised in a brewery?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
You know, again, a lot of it is the convenience of the screen time. They were on the iPad, you know, so they weren't like, you know, you could be on an Applebee's at an iPad, you know, and they're still not going to Applebee's. Like, it's not really that. It's the isolationism of it. It's the working from home. It's the not having mentors at an office that are going out to happy hours. You know, we've lost a lot of the drinking culture as well. That's the other thing that I'll say really quick for the younger generation is a lot of these folks are intimidated by opening bar tabs, or they don't know how to order an IPA. Like, they don't know how to order a beer, and they're afraid to ask because they're talking to you in person. And there's also, you know, a lot of millennials and Gen X that like don't like to talk to people as well. And I'm not trying to pick on Gen Z, but as they're coming up and going to be the ones who are hopefully, you know, keeping you all afloat for the next 20 or so years, teach them how to drink. You know, teach them how to order at the bar. Make it easy for them to learn how to interact at a bar. Like we all did. We all had, you know, like the older sibling or like the friend who like, you know, like knew the secret handshake at the bar, or, you know, like, no, you just put your cash down until, you know, the money's gone, and then you put more cash down, and then, you know, we drink until we fall off our stool. Like, you need those types of situations and to basically give a tutorial on how to drink and, you know, how to act at a bar, and that, you know, it's okay to open a tab if you want to. Like, you know, you don't have to close out after each one. Like, there's, you know, that fear of commitment as well. So, but yeah, I haven't seen any data that says, you know, because shitty parents took their kids to breweries, that they're not going to breweries. You know, there's shitty parents who let them run amok. The shitty parents, yeah. My kid's been to like 300 breweries at this point, and she loves it. She thinks it's great. Anyway, yeah, go enjoy lunch. I'm hanging out if anybody needs me, but thank you all. Yeah, thanks.